I always told myself I'd quit this job before it killed me. That was before the night the world stopped making sense, before Blackwood Tower, before Grimoire's experimental kitchen, 11:47 p.m. I'm slumped in my battered Civic, hands sticky with old marinara and exhaustion. The app pings, shattering the silence. One last delivery. The address flashes, Grimoire's experimental kitchen. I frown, never heard of it. The tip is $500 in cash. My thumb hovers, trembling, then presses accept. Rent is due in 2 days. Desperation is a hell of a drug. 12 pizzas. Not just any pizzas. These are fever dreams. Mushroom and mercury, pepperoni and phosphorus, anchovy and something called soul salt. I double-check the order, half expecting a prank. No phone number, no call back. Just a map pin, pulsing like a dying heart at the edge of town. The drive out of the city is a slow dissolve. Streetlights thin, then vanish. Fog slides in, thick as milk, swallowing the road. My GPS flickers, recalculates, loops me back to the same intersection 3 times. I mutter curses. My phone loses signal. The radio spits static, then a voice, my own, whispering words I don't remember saying. I kill the radio. The silence presses in. Blackwood Tower rises out of the trees like a broken tooth. The stories come back in fragments. Dr. Elias Blackwood, vanished in '87, last seen dragging barrels of something toxic into the woods. The tower was an observatory once, then a lab, then a ruin. Kids dared each other to break in. Some never came out. I park at the edge of a gravel lot. The tower looms, all black stone and rusted iron, streaked with stains that glow faintly green. Windows flicker with sickly light. The air tastes of metal and something sweet, like rotting fruit. I grab the pizzas, hands shaking. The boxes are warm, almost pulsing. My breath fogs in the cold, but sweat beads on my neck. There's a note taped to the door. Deliver to the laboratory. Do not ring. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not look behind you. My heart hammers. I want to leave. I want to run. But $500 is $500. I push the door. It swings open before I touch it. Inside, the air is thick and humid, humming with electricity. Shadows crawl along the walls. The floorboards creak under my feet, but the echoes don't match my steps. I force myself forward, clutch in the stack of boxes like a shield. A corridor stretches ahead, lined with ancient equipment, glass tubes, copper wires, beakers bubbling with liquids that glow and shift colors. The smell is overwhelming, a blend of ozone, vinegar, and something sharp that makes my eyes water. I pass a mirror. My reflection lags, then catches up, lips moving out of sync. I look away. The rules. Don't look behind you. A door at the end of the hall swings open. A woman stands there, tall, thin, her lab coat stained and torn over a dress that belongs in a sepia photograph. Her eyes are violet, glowing faintly in the gloom. Chemical burns trace her fingers, raw and glistening. She smiles, lips too wide. You're right on time, Marcus. Thank you for delivering the catalyst. My voice sticks in my throat. I nod, holding out the pizzas. She doesn't take them. Instead, she gestures me inside. The laboratory is vast, impossibly so, stretching up and up, filled with machines that buzz and spark, tanks filled with things that twitch and pulse. The air is heavy, syrupy, making each breath a struggle. She closes the door behind me, and the lock clicks. The sound is final, no turning back. I stand in the center of the room, pizzas trembling in my arms as the machines begin to hum louder. The shadows deepen, twisting into impossible angles. Something moves in the corner, just out of sight. I try not to look back. The door closes behind me, and the sound is so sharp it makes me flinch. I stand rooted, the pizzas await in my arms, the air thick with scents I can't name, metal, vinegar, something sweet that crawls up my nose and settles behind my eyes. The woman, Evelyn Blackwood, though she hasn't introduced herself, watches me with that unsettling calm, her violet gaze fixed and unblinking. I try not to stare at her hands, at the burns that seem to pulse with their own inner light. She glides across the floor, not so much walking as drifting, and gestures for me to follow. I hesitate, but the rules on the note echo in my mind. Do not look behind you. I keep my eyes forward, stepping carefully. The floorboards groan, but the sound is muffled, as if the wood is swallowing the noise. The laboratory opens up before me, a cavernous space that shouldn't fit inside the tower. The ceiling disappears into darkness, broken only by the occasional flicker of lightning through a stained glass skylight far overhead. Machines crowd every surface, some familiar, like microscopes and centrifuges, others so alien I can't guess their purpose. Glass tubes snake along the walls, filled with liquids that shift color as I pass. There's a tank in one corner, and something inside it moves, slow and deliberate, but I can't make out its shape. Evelyn stops beside a massive table covered in old books and yellowed papers. She picks up a beaker, swirling its contents, and the liquid inside glows a deep, unnatural blue. "You're exactly as I hoped," she says, her voice soft but carrying. The right blend of desperation and curiosity. It's rare, to find someone who chooses to come here. I swallow, my mouth dry. "You ordered a lot of pizza," I manage, trying to sound braver than I feel. "What's all this for?" She laughs, the sound echoing around the room, bouncing off metal and glass. "Oh, Marcus, the pizzas are only the beginning. They're not for eating, they're for binding. Each one is a circle, a conduit. You brought the final piece." I set the boxes down on the table, careful not to let them slip from my shaking hands. The boxes seem heavier than before, the heat radiating from them almost uncomfortable. Evelyn lifts the lid on one, revealing a pizza that looks wrong. Toppings arranged in spirals, the cheese shimmering with a silvery sheen. She traces a finger along the crust, murmuring words I can't quite catch, and the toppings shift, rearranging themselves into a pattern that makes my head ache to look at. I step back, bumping into a metal cart. It rattles, and I freeze, afraid to turn around. The shadows in the corners seem to thicken, pressing in. I hear a faint whisper, like someone breathing just behind my ear. I clench my fists, forcing myself to focus on Evelyn. She moves to a chalkboard covered in equations and symbols, some of which seem to crawl along the surface, rewriting themselves as I watch. "My father started this work," she says, her tone suddenly distant. "He believed consciousness could be transferred, preserved, improved, but he was limited by time, by fear, by the rules of this world. I've gone further. I've learned to draw from other places, other realities. I want to ask what she means, but my tongue feels thick, useless. Instead, I watch as she lifts another box, this one labeled Soul Salt Special. The smell that escapes is overwhelming, a mix of burning sage and something sharp, like ozone after a lightning strike. She places it in the center of a strange metal ring on the floor, then begins arranging the others around it, each one fitting into a groove etched with symbols that shimmer in the dim light. As she works, Others emerge from the shadows. At first, I think they're mannequins, left over from some forgotten experiment. But then one moves, its joints creaking, and I see the truth. These are people, or what's left of them. Their bodies are fused with metal and glass, wires snaking under their skin, eyes wide and pleading. One tries to speak, but only a string of numbers and chemical formulas escapes his lips. I stagger back, bile rising in my throat. Evelyn doesn't seem to notice. "They help me maintain the balance," she says, almost fondly. "Each one is a bridge, a connection to another world. But they're not enough. I need something more. I need you." The words hit me like a blow. "Me? Why? I'm just a delivery guy." She smiles, and it's the saddest thing I've ever seen. "You chose to come here. That matters. Willingness is the key. The others were taken, tricked, but you accepted the invitation. That makes you the final component." The room grows colder, the lights flickering. The machines hum louder, a deep vibration that settles in my bones. Evelyn begins to chant, her words a mix of science and sorcery, and the pizzas glow, their toppings swirling into new, impossible shapes. The metal ring on the floor pulses with light, and the air thickens, pressing against my skin. I try to move, but my legs won't obey. The hybrids, those half-human, half-machine things, surround me, their eyes pleading, their mouths working silently. One reaches out, his fingers brushing my arm, and a jolt of cold shoots through me. For a moment, I see flashes, memories that aren't mine. A boy running through the woods, a woman screaming, a hand reaching for help that never comes. Evelyn's voice rises, the chant building to a crescendo. The room spins, the walls stretching and twisting. I feel myself slipping, my thoughts scattering like leaves in a storm. The last thing I see before darkness claims me is Evelyn's face, her eyes burning with triumph and sorrow. When I come to, I'm lying on the cold floor. The laboratory is silent, the machines dark. The hybrids are gone, or maybe they were never there. Evelyn stands over me, her expression unreadable. "You're still here," she says softly. "Good. The process has begun." I try to speak, but my throat is raw, my voice barely a whisper. "What did you do to me?" She kneels beside me, her hand gentle on my shoulder. "You're part of the experiment now, Marcus. The tower is different for you. You'll see things others can't, hear what's hidden. The boundaries are thin here, and you're the bridge." I close my eyes, wishing I could wake up somewhere else. But the smell of ozone and the weight of her hand are too real. I open my eyes again, and the laboratory seems to shift, the walls bending, the machines breathing. Evelyn helps me to my feet. "There are rules, Marcus. You must follow them if you want to survive. Don't trust what you see. Don't listen to the voices in the walls. And above all, never, ever open the red door." I nod, too exhausted to argue. She leads me to a narrow cot in the corner, and I collapse onto it, my mind spinning with fear and confusion. As I drift toward sleep, I hear her humming, a lullaby that twists into static. Somewhere in the darkness, something moves, watching, waiting. I wake to the sound of humming, low, mechanical, almost like a lullaby played on broken wires. For a moment, I can't remember where I am. Then, the memories rush back. The pizzas, the laboratory, Evelyn's impossible eyes. My body aches in strange places, as if I've been stretched and folded in my sleep. The cot is narrow and cold. I sit up, the room spinning for a moment before settling. The laboratory looks different in this light. Shadows are deeper. the colors more saturated, as if reality itself has thickened. I try to stand, but my legs feel heavy, my muscles slow to respond. My hands tremble as I reach for my phone, but the screen is dead. The battery icon stuck at 1%. I shove it back in my pocket, frustration prickling my skin. Evelyn stands by the centrifuge, her back to me. She's humming that same strange tune, her fingers dancing over dials and switches. The machine is monstrous, glass tubes spiraling around a core that pulses with a sickly green glow. The pizzas are gone from the table, but their scent lingers, sharp and chemical, mingling with the ozone and copper in the air. She turns, her expression unreadable. "You're awake. Good. We're ready to begin." I want to protest, to demand answers, but the words stick in my throat. Instead, I watch as she opens a compartment in the centrifuge, revealing a mass of wires and organic tissue, something alive, twitching, fused with metal. She places a vial inside, the liquid inside swirling with flecks of silver and red. "This is the heart of the tower," she says, almost reverently. "A synthesis of consciousness and machine. My father's legacy improved. You'll help me perfect it." She gestures for me to approach. My feet move without my permission, drawn by some invisible force. The hybrids, those half-human, half-machine figures, emerge from the shadows again, their eyes following me. One of them, a woman with a glass jaw and copper wires threading through her scalp, reaches out as I pass. Her touch is ice cold, and for a split second, I see flashes of her life. A birthday cake, a hospital bed, the tower looming outside her window. Evelyn straps me into a chair beside the centrifuge. The restraints are soft, almost gentle, but unbreakable. She attaches electrodes to my temples, her hands surprisingly steady. "You'll feel disoriented," she warns, her voice almost kind. "The tower is hungry. It will take what it needs." The machine whirs to life, the tubes filling with a viscous, glowing substance. Evelyn begins to chant, her words a blend of chemistry and something older, deeper. The hybrids join in, their voices weaving through hers, creating a harmony that vibrates in my bones. Pain lances through my skull, sharp and electric. My vision fractures, splitting into a kaleidoscope of images. I see the tower's past, Dr. Elias Blackwood hunched over a workbench, scribbling equations that crawl off the page. I see failed experiments, bodies twisted and fused with machinery, screaming silently as the tower absorbs them. I see Evelyn, younger, her eyes wide with terror and wonder as she watches her father disappear into the shadows. The pain intensifies, and I feel something inside me shifting. My thoughts splinter, running in parallel, each one a different version of myself. I hear voices, some familiar, some not, all clamoring for attention. The laboratory dissolves around me, replaced by a swirling void filled with faces, hands, fragments of memory. I'm falling, tumbling through layers of reality. I see myself delivering pizzas to impossible places, a hospital where every patient wears my face, a classroom where the teacher is Evelyn, her eyes burning with secrets. I see the hybrids, their lives looping endlessly, trapped in the moment of their transformation. Suddenly I'm back in the chair, gasping for air. My hands are different, fingernails metallic, skin shot through with faint lines of light. I flex my fingers, watching the light pulse beneath the surface. My thoughts are still fragmented, but I can sense the tower now, a presence, vast and hungry, pressing in from all sides. Evelyn watches me, her expression triumphant and mournful at once. "You're changing," she says softly. The tower is accepting you. You'll be able to see what others can't. I try to speak, but my voice is distorted, layered with echoes. What have you done? She kneels beside me, her hand cool on my forehead. You're the bridge now, Marcus. The boundaries are thinner for you. You'll see the echoes, the ones who came before, the ones who never left. As if on cue, the laboratory flickers. For a heartbeat, I see dozens of figures, men, women, children, all trapped in loops of their final moments. Some reach for me, their mouths open in silent screams. Others simply watch, their eyes hollow with resignation. The hybrids begin to chant again, their voices rising in a discordant melody. The centrifuge spins faster, the glow intensifying. I feel something pulling at me, tugging at the edges of my mind. I fight to hold on to myself, but the pull is relentless. I slip into another vision. This time, I'm standing in a corridor lined with doors. Each one is marked with a symbol I almost recognize. I reach for a handle, but my hand passes through it, leaving a trail of light. Behind one door, I hear a child crying. Behind another, the sound of machinery grinding bone. I force myself back to the present, sweat pouring down my face. Evelyn is watching me, her eyes filled with something like pity. You're strong, she murmurs. Most break by now. The tower will test you, Marcus. It will show you things you can't unsee. She releases the restraints, and I slump forward, barely able to stand. The hybrids retreat into the shadows, their eyes lingering on me. I stagger to my feet, every muscle burning. Evelyn hands me a glass of water. It tastes wrong, too sweet, with a metallic aftertaste, but I drink it anyway. She helps me to the cot, her touch gentle but firm. As I lie down, the room shifts again. The walls ripple, the machines breathe. I hear whispers, fragments of memory, warnings from those who came before. I close my eyes, but the visions continue, flickering behind my eyelids. I realize, with a cold certainty, that I'm no longer just a delivery driver. I'm part of the tower now, bound to its hunger, its secrets. The hybrids watch from the shadows, their eyes pleading, their voices lost in the hum of the machines. Sleep comes slowly, filled with dreams of metal and light, of doors that open onto endless darkness. Somewhere in the distance, Evelyn's chant continues, weaving through my thoughts, binding me tighter to the tower's will. When I wake, it's impossible to tell how much time has passed. The laboratory is quiet, but not empty. There's a pressure in the air, as if the walls are holding their breath. My head throbs with memories that aren't mine, images of experiments gone wrong, faces twisted in terror, voices echoing from impossible distances. I sit up slowly, the cot creaking beneath me, and try to steady my breathing. Evelyn is nowhere to be seen. The hybrids linger at the edges of the room, watching with eyes that flicker between hope and resignation. Their bodies are more grotesque in the half-light, metal fused with flesh, wires pulsing under translucent skin. I avert my gaze, guilt gnawing at me for reasons I can't explain. I push myself to my feet, legs shaky but holding. The machines are silent, but the air hums with a low vibration, like the tower itself is waiting. I move toward the far wall, drawn by a sense of purpose I don't understand. My hand brushes against a stack of journals, old, leather-bound, the pages brittle and stained. I flip one open, squinting at the cramped handwriting, the ink crawling across the page like living things. The words blur, then sharpen. I read of Elias Blackwood's obsession, his belief that consciousness could be distilled, transferred, improved. He writes of reaching out to something beyond our world, of voices whispering equations in the dark, of bargains struck with entities he calls the geometric hunger. The more I read, the more the symbols on the page seemed to pulse, burning behind my eyes. I snapped the journal shut, heart pounding. The tower isn't just a laboratory, it's a parasite, feeding on everyone who enters. Evelyn thinks she's in control, but she's just another vessel, another pawn. The hybrids, the failed experiments, even me, we're all fuel for something vast and hungry, something that wants to break through. A sudden noise startles me. I spin around, nearly tripping over a tangle of wires. A man steps out from behind a bank of machines, his face gaunt, eyes sharp with wary intelligence. He's older, hair streaked with gray, but there's a stubbornness in his stance that reminds me of myself. "Name's James," he says, voice rough but steady. "You're the new one, huh?" I nod, wary. "How long have you been here?" He shrugs, glancing around as if the tower might be listening. "Long enough to know the rules don't matter. Not really. The tower changes them whenever it wants." He gestures for me to follow, leading me through a maze of machinery and shadow. We pass rooms that shouldn't exist, one filled with clocks that run backward, another where the floor is covered in a thin layer of black water, reflecting a sky I don't recognize. James moves with purpose, avoiding certain tiles, ducking beneath low-hanging cables that spark with blue fire. He stops in a narrow alcove, lit by a single flickering bulb. A handful of survivors huddle there, faces drawn, eyes haunted, but alive. They watch me with a mix of suspicion and hope. James introduces them quickly. Lila, a former nurse, Thomas, who once repaired elevators, and a boy named Aaron, no older than 16, his hand shaking as he clutches a battered notebook. "We've been hiding here," James explains, trying to find a way out. "But the tower, it's alive. It learns. Every time we think we've found an exit, it changes the path. It wants us here." Lila leans forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "It feeds on us, on our fear, our memories. If you fight it, it gets stronger. If you give in, you become like them." She nods toward the hybrids who drift past the alcove, their movements jerky and unnatural. I tell them what I've learned from the journals, about the geometric hunger and the true purpose of the tower. James listens, his jaw clenched. "We figured as much. The experiments, the rituals, they're just a cover. The real goal is to open a door, let those things in." Tomas speaks up, his voice trembling. "We think there's a way to stop it. The tower's not stable. It's anchored here, but only just. If we can disrupt the anchor, maybe we can collapse it, send whatever's inside back where it came from." Aaron flips through his notebook, showing me sketches of the tower's core, a mass of tangled wires and flesh, pulsing with light. "It's in the basement," he says, eyes wide. "But it's guarded. Evelyn, the hybrids, they won't let anyone near it." James grips my shoulder, his touch grounding. "You're different, Marcus. The tower's changing you, but you're still you. That means you can get close, maybe do what we can't." A surge of determination fills me, cutting through the fear. What do I have to do? Lila presses a small, cold object into my hand, a key, old and tarnished, its teeth twisted into impossible angles. "This will get you into the core, but once you're inside, you'll be on your own." The plan is simple, but the risks are enormous. I'll have to reach the core, disrupt the anchor, and hope the resulting chaos is enough to collapse the tower. The others will create a diversion, drawing Evelyn and the hybrids away. As we prepare, James pulls me aside. If you start to lose yourself, if you feel the tower taking over, remember who you are. Hold on to your memories. That's the only thing it can't steal. I nod, the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. The others move out, their courage a fragile thing, but real. I slip through the shadows, the key clutched tight in my hand, heart pounding with fear and hope. The corridors twist and shift, the walls breathing, the lights flickering in time with my heartbeat. I pass doors that open onto impossible vistas, endless deserts, frozen oceans, cities built from bone and glass. I keep moving, focusing on the feel of the key, the memory of James's words. At last, I reach a heavy metal door, its surface covered in symbols that writhe and shimmer. I fit the key into the lock, turning it with a click that echoes through the tower. The door swings open, revealing a staircase spiraling down into darkness. I step onto the first stair, the air growing colder, thicker, each breath a struggle. The walls pulse with light, shadows twisting into shapes that almost make sense. I descend, the sound of my footsteps swallowed by the dark. At the bottom, the core awaits, a mass of wires and flesh, pulsing with a sickly glow. The air vibrates with power, the sense of hunger overwhelming. I take a step forward, the key heavy in my hand, ready to do what must be done. The door closes behind me with a sound like a sigh, and the world narrows to the spiral staircase and the sickly, pulsing glow below. Each step feels heavier than the last, as if the air itself thickens the deeper I go. My fingers are numb around the twisted key, sweat slicking my palms. The walls pulse in time with my heartbeat, veins of light crawling beneath the stone, casting shifting patterns that seem to move even when I close my eyes. The descent feels endless. My mind wanders, stray thoughts slipping in, memories of my mother's kitchen, the scent of garlic and burnt crust, my sister's laughter echoing through our tiny apartment. I cling to those fragments, trying to anchor myself as the tower's presence presses harder, whispering doubts and half-formed fears. The steps twist, the air grows colder, and the glow from below intensifies until it's the only thing I can see. At the bottom, the core of the tower sprawls before me. It's a grotesque tangle of wires, flesh, and machinery, throbbing with a rhythm that feels almost alive. Tubes pulse with fluids that shimmer in impossible colors. The air is thick with a chemical tang, sharp enough to sting my eyes and throat. The hunger here is palpable, a gnawing void that tugs at the edges of my mind. I step forward, the key heavy in my hand. The floor is slick beneath my shoes, and the shadows writhe at the corners of my vision. I spot a console, half buried in the mass, its surface etched with shifting symbols. I reach for it, but before my fingers touch the glass, a voice cuts through the silence. You shouldn't be here, Marcus. Evelyn stands at the far end of the chamber, her face pale and drawn, eyes burning with a feverish intensity. The hybrids gather behind her, their bodies twitching, metal limbs clicking softly. She steps closer, her movements stiff, unnatural. You don't understand what you're doing, she says, her voice trembling. The tower needs balance. Without it, everything falls apart. I shake my head, anger rising. This place is killing people, feeding on them. You're helping it. She laughs, but there's no joy in the sound. I'm trying to save us. My father opened the door, but he didn't know how to close it. The tower is a bridge, Marcus. If we destroy it, what's on the other side will spill through. The hybrids begin to chant, a low, discordant hum that vibrates in my bones. The core pulses brighter, the hunger sharpening. I fight the urge to run, forcing myself to remember James's words. Hold on to your memories. I grip the key tighter, stepping toward the console. Evelyn blocks my path, her hands trembling. You're changing, Marcus. The tower's inside you now. If you do this, you might not come back. I hesitate, doubt gnawing at me. My thoughts fracture, splitting into parallel streams. I see myself turning back, escaping up the stairs, leaving the others behind. I see myself plunging the key into the console, the tower collapsing, the world outside warping and twisting. Each possibility feels real, the outcomes branching endlessly. The hybrids' chant grows louder, their voices merging into a single, inhuman note. The air thickens, pressing against my skin. The core shudders, veins of light crawling across its surface, forming patterns that burn into my mind. Suddenly, the floor shifts beneath me, tilting wildly. I stumble, catching myself on a tangle of wires. The chamber convulses, the machinery groaning as the tower's defenses awaken. Acid pools bubble up from the floor, the air filling with a choking, metallic haze. The hybrids surge forward, their faces twisted with desperation. I fight my way to the console, the key slick in my grasp. Evelyn grabs my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Don't!" she pleads, her voice raw. "You don't know what you're unleashing." I look into her eyes, searching for the woman I met in the laboratory. For a moment I see her, scared, exhausted, clinging to hope. But the tower's hunger is stronger, twisting her features into something unrecognizable. With a surge of will, I wrench free and slam the key into the console. The reaction is immediate, a blinding flash, the core convulsing, the chamber filling with a sound that's not quite a scream, not quite a song. The hybrids collapse, writhing on the floor, their bodies flickering between flesh and metal. The world fractures, the walls dissolve, replaced by a shifting landscape of impossible geometry, angles that shouldn't exist, colors that burn the eyes. Gravity twists, sending me tumbling through space that folds and unfolds around me. I catch glimpses of the others, James, Lila, Thomas, Aaron, each trapped in their own nightmare, their bodies warping, their screams echoing through the void. The tower's influence spreads beyond its walls. I see the town outside, reality bleeding at the edges. People stagger through streets that loop back on themselves, their bodies distorting, faces melting into geometric patterns. The sky fractures, constellations rearranging into symbols that pulse with malignant intent. My own body betrays me. My skin ripples, bones shifting, thoughts splintering into a dozen voices. I see myself from above, from below, from angles that shouldn't exist. The tower's hunger claws at my mind, urging me to let go, to become something new, something perfect. I cling to my memories, my family, my old life, the taste of bad pizza and cheap coffee. I repeat my name over and over, grounding myself as the chaos intensifies. The hybrids rise, their bodies now crystalline, their voices harmonizing into a song that threatens to erase what's left of me. Evelyn staggers to the core, her face contorted with grief and rage. "You've doomed us all," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the din. The tower won't let go. It never lets go. The chamber collapses inward, the core pulsing faster, brighter. I feel myself slipping, my humanity unraveling, replaced by cold, perfect logic. I see the world as the tower sees it. Numbers, patterns, equations, all ripe for consumption. In a final act of defiance, I reach for the console, forcing my fractured mind to focus. I trigger the failsafe, the last line of defense. The core shudders, the hunger recoiling, the chamber filling with blinding light. For a moment, everything is silent. Then the world explodes, and I fall into darkness. I tumble through the void, senses shredded by light and sound that don't belong in this world. My body is both present and absent, stretched thin across a tapestry of impossible angles. I try to scream, but the noise is swallowed by a chorus of voices, some familiar, some alien, echoing through my mind. Each voice tugs at a different thread of memory, threatening to unravel what's left of me. Gradually, sensation returns. I find myself kneeling on a floor that isn't stone or metal, but a shifting mosaic of numbers and symbols, glowing softly beneath my hands. The air is thick with static, every breath crackling with energy. I look up and see the others, James, Lila, Thomas, Aaron, scattered across the chamber, their bodies flickering between human and something crystalline, as if the tower can't decide what shape they should take. Evelyn stands at the center, fused to the core, her form warped and luminous. Her eyes are bottomless voids, her voice a discordant melody that vibrates inside my skull. You broke the pattern, Marcus. Now the anchor is failing. The geometric hunger is waking. The hybrids, now fully transformed, circle the room in a slow, ritualistic dance. Their movements trace patterns in the air, geometry that bends the light, warping the space around them. The core pulses, sending out waves of energy that ripple through the chamber, distorting everything they touch. I stagger to my feet, clutching at the remnants of my identity. My thoughts come in fragments, memories of home, the taste of cold pizza, the warmth of sunlight on my face. I cling to these details, using them as lifelines while the tower tries to overwrite me with its own logic. James crawls toward me, his face contorted with pain. The anchor, it needs harmony. But you're chaos, Marcus. That's why you're still here. I remember the plan, the chaos bomb. The pizza delivery bags, still tucked into my jacket, hum with latent energy. Each one carries traces of ordinary life. Laughter, frustration, hunger, hope. I realize now that these emotions are poison to the tower, seeds of unpredictability in its perfect equation. I reach into my jacket, pulling out the bags. The symbols on the floor react instantly, flickering and warping. Evelyn shrieks, her voice splintering the air. No, you don't understand. Without order, the breach will widen. Everything will be consumed. But I see the truth in the patterns swirling around us. The tower's strength is also its weakness. It can't tolerate contradiction, can't process the irrational. I step forward, scattering the bags across the core. The hybrids recoil, their movements faltering, the geometry unraveling. Memories flood my mind. My first delivery, the thrill of freedom, the sting of disappointment, the ache of loneliness. I focus on the most chaotic moments, the arguments, the laughter that made no sense, the dreams that never came true. I pour them into the core, willing the chaos to spread. The chamber convulses, reality folding in on itself. The hybrids dissolve into shards of light, their voices rising in a final discordant chorus. Evelyn's form flickers, her features shifting between rage and terror. "You're destroying everything!" she howls. I stagger as the ground splits beneath me, revealing an abyss filled with shifting shapes, faces, hands, fragments of memory. The geometric hunger stirs, its presence a pressure behind my eyes. a hunger that wants to devour not just me, but every unpredictable thought, every stray emotion. I feel myself slipping, my mind fracturing under the strain. But then I remember my sister's voice, the way she used to tease me for taking life too seriously. I remember my mother's hands, flour-dusted and warm. I remember the taste of freedom, the fear of failure, the stubborn refusal to give up. I seize these memories, hurling them into the breach. The chaos spreads, fracturing the patterns, disrupting the harmony the tower needs to survive. The core shudders, its light flickering wildly. James shouts, his voice barely audible over the roar. "It's working! Keep going!" I force myself forward, every step a battle against the tower's pull. Evelyn's form collapses, her scream dissolving into static. The chamber implodes, the symbols on the floor shattering into 1,000 shards of light. For a heartbeat, there is silence. Then the world snaps back into focus. The chamber is gone, replaced by a vast, empty space. The others are beside me, battered but alive. The tower's presence is weaker now, its hunger dulled by the chaos we've unleashed. But I know it isn't over. The breach is still open, the geometric hunger still lurking at the edges of reality. I feel its gaze, cold and calculating, searching for a way in. I turn to James, my voice raw. "We have to finish this. We have to close the breach." He nods, determination burning in his eyes. Together, we gather what's left of our strength, preparing for the final confrontation. The chaos bomb has given us a chance, but the tower is still dangerous, still unpredictable. I can feel my own form shifting, my thoughts flickering between human and something else. As we step into the breach, I hold on to my memories, my chaos, my humanity. I know that's all that stands between us and oblivion. We step into the breach, the world dissolving into a storm of fractured light and impossible geometry. My senses twist, sight, sound, touch, all bleeding together, until I can barely tell where I end and the tower begins. I cling to my memories, the chaotic fragments of my life, as reality buckles and reforms around us. The space beyond the core is neither here nor anywhere. It's a liminal expanse, filled with shifting shapes and echoes of voices, some pleading, some mocking, all hungry. The geometric hunger is everywhere, a presence that presses against my mind, cold and analytical, trying to dissect every stray thought and feeling. I sense the others beside me, James, Lila, Thomas, Aaron, each flickering between their own histories and the tower's influence, their identities fragile but not yet erased. Evelyn is here too, or what's left of her. She floats above the breach, her form flickering between human and mathematical abstraction. Her eyes are endless voids, her mouth moving in silent equations. She reaches for me, her voice a whisper threaded with regret. "You could have been perfect, Marcus. You could have been more." I shake my head, the weight of her words pressing down but not breaking me. Perfection isn't living. It's just another kind of prison. The geometric hunger surges, its will a tidal force. It tries to override us, to force us into harmony, to erase every contradiction. I feel the pull, an urge to surrender, to let my thoughts dissolve into the perfect order it craves. But I remember my sister's laughter, the taste of burnt crust, the sting of disappointment, and the stubborn hope that kept me moving forward. I remember every mistake, every messy, unpredictable moment that made me who I am. James grabs my shoulder, grounding me. "Now, Marcus, before it learns to adapt." I nod, reaching into my jacket for the last delivery bag. It's battered, stained with grease and memories. An artifact of a life that never made sense, that was never meant to. I open it, letting the chaos spill out, the scent of cheap pizza, the echo of laughter, the ache of longing and loss. The breach recoils, the patterns fracturing, the hunger's presence flickering. Evelyn screams, her form unraveling. "You're destroying everything. You don't know what you're doing." But I do. I finally understand. The only thing that can resist the tower's perfection is the chaos of living. Love, fear, hope, mistakes, the refusal to fit into any pattern. I pour every memory, every contradiction, every impossible dream into the breach. The others follow, their voices joining mine in a chorus of defiance. The geometric hunger thrashes, reality warping around us. The tower shakes, its foundations dissolving. I see flashes of other worlds, some beautiful, some monstrous, all teetering on the edge of collapse. I feel myself slipping, my form flickering between flesh and equation, but I hold on, repeating my name, my memories, my truth. The breach begins to close, the hunger's grip weakening. Evelyn's form collapses, her scream fading into silence. The hybrids dissolve into light, their suffering finally ending. The chamber implodes, the tower collapsing inward, reality knitting itself back together. For a moment, there is nothing, just darkness and the echo of a heartbeat. Then I find myself standing in a clearing, the others beside me. The tower is gone, erased from existence, leaving only a perfect circle of scorched earth where it once stood. The air is crisp, the sky clear, the world eerily quiet. James looks at me, his eyes haunted but alive. "We did it. It's over." I nod, but I know it's not that simple. I can still feel the patterns, the echoes of the hunger, lurking at the edges of my mind. I see flashes of other realities, other towers, other versions of myself. I know the threat isn't gone. It's just been contained, for now. We walk back to town in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. The world feels different, more fragile, more precious. I savor every step, every breath, every imperfection. In the weeks that follow, I try to return to my old life. I deliver pizzas, pay my bills, call my sister just to hear her laugh. But nothing is quite the same. I see patterns in the shadows, hear whispers in the static between radio stations. Sometimes when I catch my reflection, it flickers, my face shifting for a heartbeat into something geometric and inhuman. I keep the last delivery bag in my car, a reminder of what happened, of what I almost became. I watch for signs, strange orders, impossible addresses, the scent of ozone and copper in the air. I know I can't let my guard down. The world is full of cracks, and something is always hungry on the other side. One night, the app pings. A new order. No name, no number, just an address on the edge of town. My heart pounds, but I accept. I check the rearview mirror as I drive, watching my reflection flicker between human and something else. Maybe this is just another delivery, or maybe it's the beginning of something new. Either way, I'm ready.